The twin moons of Threxel glowed high above the silver towers of the capital city. Bright lights lit the skies, and golden banners waved from the tops of ships and domes. The Peace Unity Ceremony was the biggest event in the galaxy and beings. From 100 worlds had come to witness it. In the middle of it all stood Queen Zarentha of Threxina, a tall alien woman with dark purple skin, her glowing eyes, and a voice that could shake silence. Her long black cloak dragged behind her as she walked through the royal hall, her head high, her steps sharp and graceful. Everyone bowed when she passed. Everyone feared her, everyone, except a young human guard standing quietly near the royal. Stairs, his name was Leo. He wore simple silver armor with a dark blue stripe down the middle of his military design. He had no medals, no fancy title, just a guard post, standing with his hands behind his back, eyes forward. He was short compared to the towering aliens around him. His helmet rested by his side. His brown hair was short and his eyes calm too. Many of the alien guests he was barely noticed, just another background figure. But to Queen Zarentha, he stood out. She paused at the top of the stairs and looked down at him with a cold smile. The music stopped. The royal crowd grew silent. "What is this?" Zarentha said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "A human. Standing guard at my stairs? Is this a joke?" Everyone turned. All eyes landed on Leo. He remained still, not moving. An inch. Zarentha stepped closer. "Are humans now guards in royal halls? I thought they were good at cooking or cleaning." Soft laughter filled the air. She circled around him slowly. "Look how small he is. Look at those arms like twigs. Did your people send you here as an example of their strength?" Leo said nothing. His eyes stayed forward. His posture remained perfect. The queen leaned close and whispered near his ear, "You should be holding a tray, not a weapon." The crowd laughed louder. Leo blinked once, but he still said nothing. Zarentha stood tall again and looked at the guests. "Let this be a lesson. Some races are made to rule. Others are made to obey. The humans must know their place." The laughter echoed in the hall. Aliens with golden horns, wings, and crystal arms all smiled and nodded. Leo's commander, a fellow human named Captain Mora, watched from the side. Her fists were tight, but she knew Leo would not move or speak unless ordered. He was trained well. The queen walked away, proud of her words. The music began again. The dancers returned to the stage. But for many guests, the moment stayed in their minds. One alien noble Lord Zirin, of the Caleria, watched Leo carefully. He narrowed his eyes. That human didn't even flinch. He whispered to himself. After the ceremony ended, the palace halls emptied, the lights dimmed. The stars outside the dome shined brighter now. Leo remained at his post until he was ordered to rest. Captain Mora approached him. "Are you all right?" she asked softly. Leo nodded. "Yes, Captain." "She humiliated you in front of thousands. I was just doing my job." Mora looked at him for a long moment, then gently patted his shoulder. "Get some rest, soldier." Saluted and walked toward the barracks. The halls were quiet now, but whispers followed him as he passed. Some aliens laughed behind their claws or fans. Some looked at him with pity. Others with something else. Something like curiosity or respect. Elsewhere, deep in the shadows of Threxel's outer orbit, something dangerous moved. Unseen ships approached silently, dark and cold. Their engines barely hummed. Inside were members of the Dravik Resistance, group that hated the Unity Alliance and wanted to destroy its leaders. Queen Zarentha was at the top of their list. One of them, a red-scaled warrior named Varnak, spoke into his comms. "Tomorrow at the Queen's second celebration, we strike. When the lights go out, the palace falls," Confirmed replied. Another, "Let the galaxy see their queen fall." Back in his quarters, Leo sat on his bed and removed his armor. He stared at the small mirror across from him. His own reflection looked tired, but calm. He remembered the queen's words, her laughter, the way the others joined in. But he also remembered the silence inside himself. "I am not made to bow," he said quietly. "I am a soldier. That is enough." He lay down and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, he would return to duty. No matter what. In the royal chambers, Queen Zirantha stood alone before a giant mirror made of silver glass. Her 4 eyes scanned her reflection. She whispered to herself. They all laughed, even the Colliery, even the Lornax, all because of a human. But her words didn't sound strong this time. She remembered Leo's face. He didn't look afraid, didn't even look angry. He just stood there like a statue. "What kind of soldier takes insults and still protects?" she asked the air. She shook her head and walked away from the mirror in her heart. Something small and strange had begun to stir, but she didn't understand it yet. The next day, the second celebration ceremony would begin. But it would not go as planned, and Leo, the same human she insulted, would soon stand between life and death. Not just for himself, but for the queen who had mocked him and the entire royal court. The sun of Threxel rose slowly, casting a golden glow over the silver towers of the capital. Flags waved in the warm wind, and drones carried flower petals through the air. Today was the second celebration, a grand event to honor the unity peace treaty. Queen Zirantha stood on her balcony, looking over the royal courtyard. Below, thousands of guests were arriving leaders, soldiers, nobles, and citizens from across the galaxy. She wore her dark purple gown and a shining crown of black crystals. Her 4 eyes scanned the crowd with pride. "This day," she said, to herself, "will remind them who rules this galaxy." And behind her, her advisors bowed and prepared her speech. But the queen's thoughts kept drifting back to the human guard, the one called Leo. Why did she keep remembering his face? She had mocked him in front of all, yet he stood like a statue, unshaken, strong, loyal, no fear, no anger, just silence. Zirantha shook her head. "A human," she muttered. "What do I care?" But deep down, the question remained. Why didn't he fight back? Meanwhile, far above Threxel, inside a dark ship hidden behind the moon, the Dravik resistance prepared their attack. Their leader Varnak stood before his warriors. "Today, the Queen of Threxel falls," he growled. "We strike at the peak of the ceremony. Her death will shatter the unity." The warriors nodded. Red lights glowed on their suits. Weapons hummed. Explosive charges were checked. Their plan was simple. Infiltrate the palace, shut down its defense field, and eliminate the queen. No mercy. No survivors. In the palace courtyard, the music began. Guests clapped and cheered. Giant screens showed images of peace, unity, and royal power. Queen Zirantha stepped forward, raising her hand. The crowd fell silent. She began her speech. "Citizens of the galaxy," she said, her voice loud and firm, "we have gathered again to celebrate the unity our strength through peace. May our alliance remain unbroken, and may those who threaten it suddenly." The sky darkened. The music stopped. Screams echoed. Explosions rocked the West Tower. A red energy blast hit the upper platform, blowing apart the marble stairs. Guards shouted, guests ran. Ceremony was in chaos. From the sky, drop pods smashed into the ground. Dravik warriors poured out, firing strange weapons that turned metal into dust. Queen Zirantha was pushed back by her guards. Her advisors screamed, "Protect the queen." But the defense field was down, and the enemy was inside the palace. In the eastern hallway, Leo was just returning from a short rest when the first explosion hit. The walls shook. Smoke filled the corridors. Red lights flashed, his cum buzzed. All guards to the royal platform now. Leo didn't hesitate, grabbed his pulse rifle and sprinted down the hallway. Alien nobles ran past him in fear. Flames burst from broken pipes. Another guard shouted, "It's the Dravik! They're everywhere!" Leo's mind went calm. This was no longer a ceremony. This was war. On the platform, Queen Zirantha was being pulled toward her armored shuttle. Her guards were trying to create a wall of defense. "Get her to safety," someone yelled, but the shuttle exploded before it could lift off. Varnak himself stepped forward from the flames, holding a long black blade. "Your rule ends here, Queen." "Of Threxel," he growled. Her guards fired at him, but he moved too fast. 2 guards fell instantly. The others backed away. Zarentha stood alone now, her eyes wide. For the first time in many years, she felt fear. Just then Leo arrived. He ran through the smoke, jumped over fallen pillars, and raised his rifle. Saw the queen, the assassin, and the dying guards around her. He didn't think. He just moved. He rolled to the side, took cover behind a broken pillar, fired 3 shots at Varnak. The blasts hit his shoulder, making him stumble. Shayer turned in shock. "You," she whispered. Leo stood in front of her, blocking Varnak's path. His armor was scratched, his arm was bleeding, but his eyes were calm. "I told you," Leo said. "I'm a soldier." Varnak roared and charged. Leo met him head-on. The fight was fierce. Varnak slashed with his blade, fast and strong. Leo ducked, rolled, and returned fire. His shots hit, but not deep enough. Varnak knocked the rifle from Leo's hands. They fought. Hand to hand, Leo dodged strikes, using his smaller size to move quickly. But Varnak was powerful. A punch to Leo's chest sent him crashing into a wall. Zarentha screamed, "No." Varnak laughed. "This is your protector?" Leo stood up slowly. Coughing, he looked at the queen, blood on his face. "Run, now." She didn't move. I said, "Run." He shouted, but she took a step toward him instead. Varnak raised his blade again. Leo lunged forward, grabbing a broken rod from the ground. With all his strength, he drove it through Varnak's side. The assassin roared in pain, spinning and slashing wildly. One strike hit Leo's leg. Another hit his side, but the rod stayed inside Varnak's body. The assassin collapsed. Dead silence. Followed, the smoke cleared slowly. Guards returned, shooting the last of the rebels. The royal court was saved. Queen Zarentha rushed to Leo's side. He was lying on the ground, bleeding badly, breathing hard. "Why? Why did you protect me?" she asked, kneeling beside him. "I was just doing my duty," Leo said weakly. She looked at him, truly looked at him for the first time. The human she had insulted, mocked, and laughed at had just saved her life. Tears filled her eyes. "Stay awake," she said. "I'm getting help. Don't you dare die." Leo smiled faintly. "I'm not that easy to kill, Your Majesty." Then he closed his eyes. The grand palace of Threxel, once filled with laughter and light, now stood in silence. Smoke still rose from broken towers. Walls were cracked, banners torn, and statues shattered. The celebration had turned into a battlefield inside the medical wing of the palace. Leo lay on a silver bed, his body covered in bandages and healing gel. Machines hummed beside him, monitoring his heartbeat, breathing, and wounds. His chest rose and fell slowly. He was still alive, but barely. Doctors moved quietly, checking his vitals. One whispered to another he took a deep wound to the side, a cracked leg bone, and minor burns. But somehow, he fought like 10 soldiers. Outside the room, guards stood silently, their heads bowed. No one laughed at the human anymore. No one whispered behind his back. They had all seen what he did in her private chamber. Queen Zarentha sat alone. She was no longer wearing her crown or royal cloak. Her long hair was loose, her hands trembling slightly. The events of the attack replayed in her mind again and again. The explosion, the assassin's blade. And then, Leo? She remembered how he stood between her and death, how he had shouted at her to run, how he had taken the wound meant for her. He had saved her life, and yet it was the same man she had mocked in front of the entire galaxy. Zarentha walked. To the mirror, she stared at her reflection. Her glowing eyes looked tired now. Her proud face, once cold and strong, was now filled with regret. She spoke softly to herself. "What kind of queen am I?" She sat down on the edge of her bed and covered her face with her hands. Later that evening, the royal advisors gathered in the main hall. "We must give him a medal," said High Counselor Velik. his crystal robe shining under the lights. He saved your majesty's life. The humans must be honored, another advisor nodded. Let us send word to Earth. Tell them their soldier acted with courage. But Zirentha raised her hand. A medal is not enough. The hall grew quiet. I need to speak to him, she said. Alone. At night after the doctors left, Queen Zirentha walked alone into the medical chamber. Leo still lay on the bed. His eyes closed, his chest moved slowly, each breath heavy. Wires were connected to his arms. Soft beeping filled the room. Zerd stood beside him. She didn't speak at first. She just looked. He looked so different now. Not small or weak, but strong. Strong in ways her warriors had never been. Strong in silence, strong in duty. She sat beside him. Her voice was soft. I don't know if you can hear me, but I must say this. She took a deep breath. I mocked you. I insulted you. I laughed at you in front of everyone. Still, you protected me. A tear rolled down her cheek. You could have turned away. You could have let me fall, but you didn't. She looked down at her hands. All my life. I thought strength meant power, control, fear. But you showed me something different. I was wrong. I was cruel. She paused. And I'm sorry. Suddenly, Leo's voice broke the silence. It was weak but clear. You came. Zirentha looked up in shock. Leo opened his eyes slowly and smiled. You're here. Yes, she said, standing up quickly. Yes, I'm here. He tried to sit up, but she gently pushed him back. Don't move. You're still healing. Leo looked at her with calm eyes. You don't have to say anything. I was just doing my duty. Zirentha shook her head. No, I do have to say something. I've never apologized to anyone. Not in centuries. But I had to come here. To ask for your forgiveness. Leo blinked. You're the queen. You don't need to ask. I do, she said firmly. Because I wasn't acting like a queen. I was acting like a child with power. There was a long silence between them, then Leo asked, Why did you laugh at me? Zirentha lowered her eyes. Because I thought your people were weak, small. I thought you didn't belong among us. And now. I see things clearly, she said. Now I see that strength is not about size or species. It's about heart. Leo gave a small smile. You're learning. Zirentha smiled too, a little sad, a little proud. She placed a small medal on the table beside his bed. It was her royal crest, black and gold. This belongs to you now. It's the highest honor of my people. Given only to the bravest. Leo looked at it but didn't reach for it. I'm just a guard. No, she said. You're a symbol now. God. A symbol of what true strength looks like. The next morning, word spread quickly. The queen had visited the human guard. She had apologized, and she had given him the royal crest. The galaxy buzzed with the news. Some couldn't believe it. Others cheered. Across many worlds, humans held their heads a little higher. A reporter from the Kalari system said on Live Hala News, it was not just a human victory. It was a lesson. Even the mightiest can learn humility. Later that week, Queen Zirentha called for another ceremony. This time not for herself, not for the unity, but for Leo. In front of thousands, she told the story of his courage. She told the truth of what she had done, how he had still chosen to protect her. She ended with the words, in front of all, I once humiliated this man. Now, in front of all, I kneel to honor him. She did. She knelt before Leo in front of the entire court. The crowd gasped. Leo stepped forward, still weak but standing straight. He helped her to her feet. No need to kneel, he said simply. Let us walk together. The crowd cheered. For the first time in 1,000 years, a queen and a human stood side by side, not as ruler and guard, but as equals. The day of the new ceremony dawned bright and clear over the city of Threxel. The silver towers sparkled in the sunlight. Citizens from many worlds gathered once again in the royal courtyard, curious and eager to witness the next chapter of this unexpected story. The air buzzed with excitement and whispers. Some said it was a celebration of peace. Others said it was a new era for humans. Still others wondered if the proud Queen Zarentha would truly humble herself. Inside the palace, preparations were underway. Guards polished their armor, technicians tested holoscreens. The royal banner flew high, but something new had been added. Simple blue flag with a white star, the symbol of humanity. Queen Zarentha stood before a large mirror in her chambers. She wore a simpler outfit than usual, a deep blue robe that matched the new human flag. Her crown had been set aside. She touched the cold metal of the royal crest, the one she had given to Leo. It gleamed softly. For the first time in many years, she felt nervous. She looked at her reflection. "Today I will kneel before a human," she whispered. Her advisor, High Counselor Velik, entered quietly. "Your Majesty, the court is ready. Shall we begin?" Zarentha nodded. "Yes. Let this be a day remembered." The courtyard filled with guests, Salian nobles in shining armor, diplomats in flowing robes, and soldiers from many species. The excitement was palpable. Leo arrived, supported by 2 human medics. Though still healing, his posture was proud and steady. The crowd watched in silence. Queen Zarentha stepped onto the grand stage. She raised her hand for silence. "My friends, today I stand before you not as your queen, but as one who has learned humility," she began. She paused and looked directly at Leo. "This man, who once was a simple guard, saved my life. He showed courage where I expected fear, strength where I expected weakness." A hush fell over the crowd. "Today, I honor him." With a graceful motion, Zarentha removed her royal crest and walked down the steps toward Leo. The crowd gasped. She knelt before him. "Leo," she said, "please accept this crest once more, not as a symbol of power over you, but as a sign of respect and friendship." Leo bowed his head in return. "Your Majesty, I accept it with honor." The crowd erupted in applause. After the ceremony, many alien leaders approached Leo and Zarentha. They spoke with respect, curiosity, and sometimes surprise. The once proud and distant queen now walked beside her human protector. Their conversations were calm, honest, and filled with new ideas. Some leaders whispered, "This is the start of a new alliance, one built on trust." Others nodded silently, watching the quiet human with new eyes. In the following days, Leo was promoted to Royal Protector of the Crown, a position never before given to a human. His training became intense. He studied not only combat, but diplomacy, strategy, and alien cultures. Queen Zarentha invited him to her council meetings. Together, they planned ways to strengthen the Unity Alliance and include humans more fully. The Queen, once feared for her cruelty, was now admired for her change. One afternoon, Leo stood on the palace balcony, looking at the city below. A young alien girl approached him. "Guard Leo, my father says you are brave," she said shyly. He smiled. "I'm just doing my duty." She smiled back. "You are more than that." Leo looked at the stars and thought of the long journey ahead. He remembered the Queen's first cruel words, and he realized how far they both had come. Meanwhile, in the far reaches of space, word of the events on Threxel spread quickly. Humans were no longer seen as weak or simple. They were respected. Some feared their growing power. Others hoped for a future where all species could stand together. Back in the palace, Queen Zarentha held a meeting with her advisors. "We must continue this path," she said firmly. "The galaxy is changing. We cannot rule through fear alone." Her voice was calm, yet strong. The room was silent, then nodded in agreement. At night, Leo sat alone in his quarters. Writing a message to Earth, he wrote, "Today I wear the Queen's crest, not as a prize, but as a promise to protect, to serve, and to build a future where all beings are respected." He smiled softly and closed the message. The road ahead was long, but now he did not walk it alone. The great palace of Threxel was alive with light and sound. Music played softly through the halls. People from all over the galaxy gathered for the Alliance Renewal Festival, a celebration not only of peace, but of a new era. Queen Zarentha stood on the grand balcony, looking down at the crowd. Beside her stood Leo, now dressed in the finest armor of the royal protector. His chest bore the queen's crest proudly. For many, it was hard to believe how much had changed. A short time ago, this human was a simple guard, laughed at and humiliated. Now he was a leader. Cher smiled at him. "Are you ready for this?" she asked quietly. Leo nodded. "I am." The ceremony began with a speech from the queen. "Friends of the galaxy," she said, her voice strong and clear. "Today we celebrate not just the peace between worlds, but the trust we have built. Trust that comes from understanding, courage, and respect." She turned to Leo. "This man taught me the meaning of true strength, not power or fear, but loyalty and heart." The crowd cheered after the speech. Leo took the stage. He spoke simply, but his words carried weight. "Many of you saw me as weak, a human, small and fragile. But today I stand here to show that strength comes from within. It comes from standing up when it is hard, from protecting those who need it, and from believing in a better future." He looked at the audience. "I do not stand alone. I stand with Queen Zarentha, with all of you, and with those who dream of peace." The crowd erupted in applause. In the weeks that followed, Leo and Zarentha worked together to build new laws. Laws that gave equal rights to smaller species. Laws that protected free speech and banned cruel treatment. Laws that encouraged cooperation. Between planets, the Queen listened carefully to Leo's ideas. He was a bridge between humans and aliens, a voice for both. Together, they faced many challenges. Some leaders resisted change, some old rivals plotted in secret, but Leo's quiet strength and Zarentha's growing wisdom helped them overcome each obstacle. One day in the palace gardens, Leo trained new human guards. He showed them how to stand tall, how to be calm in the face of fear, and how to carry themselves with honor. A young recruit asked, "How did you become so brave?" Leo smiled. "I wasn't born brave. I learned it. From every challenge, every insult, every moment I stood my ground." He looked up at the stars. "You don't need to be the biggest or strongest to be a hero. You just need to believe in yourself." Far from Threxel, on Earth, the news of Leo's courage inspired millions. Children looked up to the sky and dreamed of exploring the stars. Scientists worked harder to build better ships. Leaders sought peace with other worlds. Humans were no longer just a small, unknown species. They were part of something greater. Back at the palace, Queen Zarentha often called Leo to her side. They talked late into the night about the future, she said. "You have changed me, Leo. Your courage and kindness remind me what it means to be a true leader," he replied. "And you have shown me that even those who seem cruel can learn and grow." Their friendship became a symbol across the galaxy. One evening, during a quiet walk, Zarentha stopped and looked at Leo. "Do you ever regret standing by me after how I treated you?" Leo shook his head. "No, because sometimes the hardest path leads to the strongest bond." She smiled warmly. The galaxy watched as the Alliance Renewal Festival came to an end. But the real celebration was just beginning. Humans and aliens, once divided by fear and misunderstanding, now walked together, side by side, towards a future filled with hope.